Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I don't know if I say it often or sometimes, but there are interviews and there are interviews, and this is an interview because the other day I kind of recreated a scene from the movie Moonstruck when Cher slaps Nicolas Cage in the face. I'm an old movie person and tells him to snap out of it. And the other day, as I'm digesting Denisha Keating, Dr. Danisha Keating,
Mhm.
as I'm digesting that, I'm saying, wait a second, we're talking about this, but she did this, and she does all kinds of stuff, which we're going to talk about now, with authors and speakers and guiding them in the public relations, the whole package. Being a self-published author, she is, I am too. And so there's great beyond because the world of self-published people is a wonderful, special world that needs Dr. Danisha Keating a lot because I live it every day. But your journey to get here, which we're going to do a little bit of a teaser. You've done a whole lifetime in foster care
Yeah.
and self and home schooling and going to get your bachelor's degree for 8 years. Now you get your PhD. So you've
Yeah.
done we talked about it. You lived a life of a movie. Your life is
Yeah.
going to be a movie one day because from what you lived through. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that at the end. So I'm so thrilled, and I'm very grateful to the universe
Mm.
for doing the orchestration of getting us together
Mhm.
here because
Yeah.
again, there's so much commonality. But I think the front end of this, um, helping people who like
Yeah.
myself who need so much help with the speaking and all this. But anyway, this is great, and I'm thrilled. So, Dr. Denisha Kidding, there's an old TV show. This is your life. This is your life. Way before your time, a
Yeah.
long time ago. Why don't you do a little background, just a quick little
Yeah.
background, and then we're going to talk about some of the things you do that are so needed.
Yeah. So I'm a speaker and an author. I have technically three books that have been self-published, but two of them more confidently in myself, self-published from foster to PhD, as well as Taking My Voice Back, Healing What Broke Me. Both of these books were self-published by myself. I had kept putting in traditionally offer like not traditional offers, but like I went through trying to find someone who would traditionally pick me up and I kept getting denied and it was really frustrating. And a lot of people who I knew, that's not very many, but the five people I knew who had been traditionally published were like, you just have to wait. You just have to keep trying. And I was wasting what I felt like precious time of being able to empower other people with their own stories. It was just kind of sitting there. So I took the route of self publishing and I went around and I called places that I knew would have the individuals who would want to read this story, that particular book from foster to PhD, and I would call them and say, "Hey, I want to come and speak with you. I want to do a speaking event and I have these books. Here's the book." And then I went on to the second one and I did this exact same thing and people started bringing me in as a speaker and very quickly I realized there was no need to spend $15,000, $25,000 to have someone else make a call for you. I could make that call for myself and say, "Hey, this is who I am." I can send those emails out. And I've learned things and had failures along the way, but learned from those that 4 years in, I'm like, wow, other people need to know how to do these things, but from a self-publishing aspect and an independent speaker aspect. And that is why I now actually help authors and speakers get their books out there, get their speaking opportunities on there without having to have a whole PR team behind them, without having to have someone filter what they can and cannot put in their book, or even with a lot of authors feeling like they have to put certain trauma in their book to be able to sell the book to the traditional authors, but then also being able to get speaking events and get paid to do those. Because that was the other issue I saw from people. They're like, "You're getting paid to do this?" I'm like, "You're not." And it was all about those common issues that I was seeing from friends who were like, "I don't understand how you got that speaking event." And I just said, "This is what I did. Here's the short email." And they started getting those speaking events as well. And then they started increasing what they were making by switching to one specific question that I shared with them. So we'll go more into that. But that's
Oh,
what I do.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's like you're talking directly to me. We're not even doing an interview here. You're talking directly to me because I live it, I breathe it.
Yeah.
It's just part of me. So let's plunge in, and
Yeah.
at the very end, we're going to do a little teaser, just a couple
Yeah.
quick questions on this whole foster care, your
Yeah.
journey and the homeschooling. But anyway, um, what holds most aspiring speakers and authors back from the whole launching process?
It's the confidence that they matter. It comes down to that of nobody wants to hear this. I tried one time. The biggest issue, and I see this a lot, is that we post it on social media. We were talking about that before, as we were posting it in groups or posting it for our friends to buy, and then nobody buys. And we're like, well, nobody wants this now. I did all this work. I know that this can make a difference for someone, but nobody's buying. And it really is that we don't have that confidence that one, our story matters, and then we don't have the knowledge of where to actually go. We think that social media is what it was 10, 15 years ago, but it's not. Right now, it's a part of our marketing technique. What we need to do is take that book that we have and we need to find where the people are that are actually going to read it. So instead of joining a Facebook group where it's a bunch of authors being in there and sharing ideas, go into a readers club where it's like, hey, we're actively looking for books to read, and then you post your book in there. You're going to get a very different sell that's going to happen. In the author, you might sell one or two books total. But in a group of readers who are like, we're actively looking for good books, you might actually get 5 to 10 sells by posting. But we need to know where to go. So the self confidence makes us stop. And then when we pick back up again, we're usually going in the wrong direction to pitch our book to somebody who is not the right audience for that.
You noticed. I don't know how many interviewers in the world. I know Johnny Carson and Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel never take notes when they're interviewing somebody on TV, but I've been
No, they
taking
don't.
notes. I'm
I
taking
love
notes on
that.
you. Yeah,
You're like,
well,
hold on, let me try this.
I'm taking notes.
Yes.
So if you see me going down there like that,
Yeah. Take the notes. I
I'm
love
taking
it.
notes. Um, so next, what's the biggest financial mistake you see like new speakers
Yeah.
make? I've never done the speaking thing, but
Yes. So with the speaking issue that I see, what happens is we usually try to find someone who says, "Oh, I can go get you a bunch of speaking events. You know, you can go and start making money right away. I can get this event for you and you'll make $50,000." There's always a particular promise that they're making what you're going to make financially, but what they don't tell you is that they take the majority of what you make. So now what you do is you make $50,000 and you pay them 30, 40,000, or they take 20% or 50%. So you're not actually making what you thought you were going to make. And they go and get you 5 events because they have those 5 connections with someone who's looking to fill their spaces. And so we're spending all this money just trying to make money, which is not a great way to become a speaker. You can actually start off by just one of the biggest things is locating colleges or organizations that have support programs for different types of individuals and ask them to come in and you can make money that way. Organizations are always looking for people to do workshops on how to write your story or how to do financial literacy. They are wanting to bring somebody in, and this is where you could just ask them to be part of that event versus having to pay someone to go make money.
listening to you and I'm listening to you and you're filling. I'm almost watch. I'm almost sorry I found you because you're filling my head. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a rough
I'll
time
be back.
sleeping at night because all this stuff is floating around. So now
Yeah.
you probably cost me another night's sleep. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. That's a good thing. That means your head is
Yeah.
spinning to try to find a
It
solution
is.
for what you can do now with this
It is.
information.
I did a readers a reading club yesterday. And I was actually one of the younger persons there, so
Yeah.
you can kind of figure that out, the demographics. But it was a great. They were tremendous, but they came up with some great ideas for me. They said, Calvin, you reinvented yourself
Mm,
in such a way. I mean, you started teaching at Rutgers. You're 74 years old. Most people retire,
yeah.
at 74. You're first starting out, so
Right.
it's probably a great. We'll talk about it off camera. Maybe to recruit you. But I should be
Yeah.
doing a lot of speaking to senior. groups,
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
'Cause,
And there's so many of us that have stories to tell, especially the older generation, that they feel like they're comfortable sharing now, but they don't know how to. And so, unfortunately, I find that that is the demographic that usually gets taken advantage of from a lot of different people because they're like, oh, I can get you the world. And then you find out they give you this much and you spent that much. And then they go, oh, well, you didn't spend this much to get the rest of that. And so then you just keep paying and you're not actually getting what you thought you were getting.
wow. And which is a good segue to the next question.
Mhm.
Why do you think your your clients trust you more over big PR firms or publishers, as a matter of fact?
One, I've done it. I've done it myself. But two, I don't hide information. I'm willingly giving information for free before somebody actually sits down with me to pay. I really believe that's part of integrity, just to be like, look, like this information, you could absolutely Google it. Now, putting it into play is a lot harder. It is simple to read, but it is hard in action. But because I actively go out and put my name out there, I actively have self-published myself, and then I go out and I'm like, okay, let me negotiate these things. I didn't start off with a big PR team, so I knew exactly how to go out and do these things that I'm able to walk someone through if they wanted to do 10 events a year. I'm like, okay, if you want 10 events, this is what you have to do in these ways to get your name out there. But most people who are doing what I do did it as a PR team and a PR company, but they didn't ever do it as themselves. So they don't know how to get an individual out there. They just know how to get the package out there. And that's where it can get messy. So a lot of the clients that I've worked with, when they have called and they're just like, hey, this thing is not working. What do I do? I'm like, have you done this? They're like, no, I'm really scared. I'm like, you have to do this. It's for your confidence, but also because that's the question that needs to be asked to work. And they're like, oh, okay. They try it. They come back. They're like, guess what just happened? I got an increase in how much I was being offered because I asked that specific question versus just going in off of fear. And I'm like, I know it's very scary to step out, but I'm going to give you that information to help you grow because it's not something I need to gatekeep.
Okay. How would you turn someone's story into like a powerful pitch?
Yeah. Well, I think there's always name plays on things. So my story is from foster to PhD or the bootstrap girl because it's like when you look at my life, you're like, wow, you went from this to that. When it comes to somebody else's story where it's like, okay, you've pivoted in your life, you've started a new career, it's you're an entrepreneur, but how do we switch that to where it is something that you're actually passionate about? Because what my key term from foster to PhD and bootstrapper is, it might not resonate with you on your story. So it's sitting down, getting to learn your story, then understand why you're wanting to share it. So that way we can pitch it in a way that here's the real meat of what this person is bringing to the table. It's not just a book. It's not just wanting to be a speaker. It's not about making money. The passion is they want to make a difference in somebody's life. And they know that if they had this information 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they would have made different choices. So being able to pitch the person is knowing who they are, knowing their story, and then knowing what is their passion for why they want to get their book out there and why they want to be a speaker. So it can be tailored per person, but sometimes it's about finding just a phrase that you believe in, that you're like, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to pitch, because that's really what people resonate. There's a saying that says people believe in who they see themselves as. And if we are able to understand what that audience is looking for, we're able to pitch better to them.
Um, Sometimes I feel guilty asking all these secret things, but whatever. Whatever. What's one? What's a negotiation secret that would instantly increase a speaker's value fee?
Yes. So one of the biggest issues that we do as a speaker is we set our number. We're like, okay, I want to make $500 for an hour speaking event. And every hour is $500. Instead of going in, there's two issues. What happens is we say $500 an hour. Someone brings us in for 2 hours and says, we want all of this condensed into 2 hours. That's not a really good thing if you're like, oh, I'm used to like a 4 hour training. Now I'm going to condense and it's not going to be very good. And you're already going in with a lack of confidence. So the first secret that I always tell every single person I work with is, what is their budget? Ask that question up front, Because what you're going to have is you're going to have some places that only have $200 while other places have $10,000. And then you could say, okay, this is what I can do for that budget. You are in control of your budget and your offer versus saying $500 an hour. Tell me what you want from me. You're saying, okay, what is your budget? Your budget's $1,200. Okay. And this is what I can do for 1,200. Because flights are kind of expensive, we'll do a Zoom hour. On that Zoom hour, I can cover this, but I can tailor it to you. How does that sound? Okay, you want a little bit more of this? Perfect, but we've already negotiated 1,200 on Zoom and it's an hour. Now we're just going to get the tailoring in for that particular message. I've gotten within a week, I went from $200 of my little budget that I was like, it's $200 an hour, and getting asked to do 8 hours that I was like, I thought they wanted one event. They came back and had that like $1,200 to use. And now I have 8 events from them, which sounded great, but it didn't allow for the preparing of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went literally, what is your budget? And they go, well, our budget is this. Okay, you want something really solid? You have $2,000. This is what I can offer. You're local. I can drive, not a big deal, not having to fly, not having to do all of that. I can do that for 2,000. It'll be 2 hours. This is what that looks like. Okay, now let's tailor the content just a little bit. Then some of those events went to 10,000 very quickly because it was, well, we have $10,000. Okay, 4-hour training. That's too long. Okay, let's do a 2-hour training. You want to do an hour? Okay, well, then I'll do a little bit of a discount. We'll just do 5,000. Oh, I can take the 10,000. Doesn't really matter. But what is their budget is the biggest question you can ask. And then this is what I have to offer for that. Okay, how would you like to tailor this to you? Because it is all about what if you can do 3 Zoom sessions back to back and got $1,200 per Zoom session. You just space them out 30 minutes in between. And so you can go get food, you freshen up, you can do all this, get your PowerPoint ready, instead of saying, well, I'm going to fly to Texas, then fly to Hawaii, and it's all $2,000, the same thing. So it's all about asking, what is your budget? And then saying, here's what I can offer for that budget. Because if it's low, you can absolutely still do it, but you're not traveling or expecting them to pay your travel, which is super expensive now. But you're being able to be more in control of your offer.
So Zoom really helps in this new world, doesn't it?
It really, really does. And it allows you to get a bigger reach. So that's a big part is I always say, okay, why don't we do a Zoom so that we can reach more people? You can invite out more people and have them come. So the event is bigger than what it would have been flying everybody into this one particular location.
Okay. Boy, you're filling my head up. Oh, Danisha, you're filling my head up. My goodness,
Good.
it's a whole
That makes me happy
there's a
because
whole
that
world out
means
there
there is.
outside this little cubicle where I spend 12 hours a day. Um, Tell us about a moment that like a client arrived and they kind of knew they made it.
Yes. My favorite part is when it's different for everybody, but for this particular client, he had said, I think I'm going to offer this amount. And I said, why are you not asking what is your budget? And he said, I'm really scared. And I said, I want you to take a chance and still have your number in your head, just so that way, if it's there, you maybe negotiate. But I want you to go ask them what their budget is because I know that they have more than you think they do. And he came back, and he goes, they tripled what I was going to ask them for.
Oh, wow.
And they included flights and
Wow.
hotel. And I was like, there you go. And he's like, that's great. And so then he's still doing speaking events, and he's like, thank you for that little tidbit. Thank you for telling me this because nobody else would tell me. They kept it kind of secret and said, oh, I depends on what it is. And no one would give that information, but you just were like, here you go. And he said that he started to self-publish. He started to do all of those things as well. And he's like, I really feel like I'm being able to do things that mean something to this world versus before I felt like I was kind of just grabbing at things. So for him, he felt like he had made it because he was living in his purpose for what he wanted to do with his life.
I circled what is the budget. That's a
What is your budget?
What is your budget?
I ask it every single time.
Oh,
I still do. I've been doing it in this speaking event by myself for 4 years, and I
wow.
will always ask that question.
Wow.
And I still get nervous asking it every single time. I don't
Sure.
know why. I get nervous. I'm like, And I'm like, what's your budget? And people will come back and be like, well, what is your fee? So have that number there that will cover your travel and everything like that. But then always follow back up and say, but what is your budget? Because then now they're having to get some hard numbers
Yeah, yeah.
because there's people who don't have a budget and they're like, well, we were just hoping you would come out. Now that's your choice if you want to go do that. But that for me, I can't afford to do that with everybody. So I have to be very diligent in who I can say yes or no to when it comes to free.
You know, I mentioned to you I worked for 25 years for the world's wealthiest Italian in the sales organization, and I learned volumes of things. But one of the most important thing I learned, which is very akin to asking what is your budget, is asking for the order. It's a whole
Yep.
science.
What is your order?
What is the order? You know, to ask for that order. Same type thing. You know,
Yeah.
that is an art form to ask for the
Yes.
order and get the order.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is so true.
It can
It's
be applied anywhere
yeah.
because it's what are you expecting for this event could be the next question that you ask, because some people will come in and they'll be like, I have $200 and I'm expecting you to be here for 3 days. And it's like, that's, I'm going to have to say no, because that's 3 days where, again, it's not covering travel, $200 for 3 full days. That's way below minimum wage for a lot of people. And I can't take that 3 days away from other events that I could do or just simply spending time with my family. And so that, it feels weird, but money is one of those conversations that we have to have when we're doing, as a speaker, an author, a business owner, we have to get comfortable with what is your budget? Because then what if there is nothing and you just offered the world to them? I've been there. That's why I started asking that question pretty quickly, was because of that, was people were like, I want all of this stuff. And I said, well, what's your budget? They're like, well, we don't have one. So we were hoping you would do it for free. And I had already like offered this thing to them. And so then I felt guilty for saying, okay, well, I can't do that. And it's all business for people. They understand when you're like, I'm so sorry that that's not I can't do all of that for this amount. But then because you ask, what is your budget? You're then able to tailor that offer to that budget. Someone pays you more, you do a hell of a lot more. Someone doesn't pay you as much, you do really well still, but you don't offer them the world, because then you're going to walk in pretty bitter and not do a good job.
What would you teach somebody how to stand out in a crowded speaking market? How do you stand out and
Yeah.
distinguish yourself?
You have to be yourself. If you're trying to be a chameleon of somebody else, if you're trying to do what everybody else is doing, if you're trying to promote yourself the same way, you are not going to get there. You have to think outside of the box with how you put your name out there. I personally find long-winded emails as a first introductory email is actually not in our benefit. We have to keep it super short. Be someone who wants to pick up the phone. I think that is the biggest difference that I see in me versus other people. Everybody's like, well, I posted on social media that I was available. And I'm like, yes, I emailed them and then called them. Like, and they're like, wow, that makes sense to why you got that. We live in a culture right now where we have 5 or 6 generations working in this area in the US. So you have people who are in their 70s and 80s, and then you have people who are 16. Everyone is going to communicate differently. So if you hit every angle, social media, email, call, you will get somebody, versus when you just do one thing and say, well, it doesn't work.
Um, I like that. Be yourself. These are
Yes.
powerful little things you're relating. Is there a methodology of taking somebody going from like a $200 speaking fee, getting them to go to $7,500 ones? If
It's
somebody's
all, yes. It's, a lot of people will try to say, well, a lot of where I speak is in the foster care side. And people go, there's no money there. I'm like, well, if you're speaking to an organization with a small budget, yes, there's not a lot of money there. This is why asking what your budget is so important. But when you go to a corporate building and say, oh, I can talk to your team about wellness and mental health, or I could talk to them about writing their stories or living with purpose, that big organization is going to have a very different budget. And if you are going to ask the right questions of what is your budget, you can easily go from $200 to $7,500 by asking that question. You do not want to shy away from it. I have had people where it's like, oh, you're going to come in for 30 minutes and we're going to pay you $500 versus someone else who's like, you're going to come in for 30 minutes and we're going to pay you 10,000. And it literally came down to that question. The when I did not ask that question, I overpromised and I didn't get the money. When I asked the question, I was able to filter where these other events might have been. And there's times that I'm like, okay, for 4 hours, this is what it is. And they're like, cool, that's great. They don't want to reveal their budget. That's fine. But the formula really comes down to, are you always asking the same type of places? Because you're not going to make it if you're not opening yourself up to other opportunity, not just in a small organization, but a large corporation, a school, a district. You have businesses. There's Facebook groups. There's all of these places that you can really tap into to start getting in different doors. But we're not going to get in that door if we just keep going the same route over and over again to the same locations.
Okay. I like this next question, because it kind of hits home. I have my own personal answer to this. It's pretty short. Oh, you know what? Before I ask this question, I always do this, and it's part of my training. Barbara Walters was a hero of mine,
Mm.
and she always used to ask this question. And I'm gonna go off topic and ask you this question.
Yeah.
Yep, sure. Um, Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Oh, man.
And it could be, there's no rules here. If you have a couple, that's fine too. No rules.
I would probably sit with Job from the Bible because the
Wow.
man went through a lot and he still was like, I'm going to praise God. And the neat thing about Job's story is that up until God talked to him, he had never had a conversation like that with God. He only had heard who God was, and he still chose to worship the God of Israel. And so I'd want to sit with him. And then probably trying to think. Probably like Martin Luther King Jr. He would be another one that I'd want to sit down, and Abraham Lincoln. Like those are some pretty big
They
ones where I'm like, I just want to ask questions because there was a lot going on in all three of those those eras, and I would want to sit with them and just ask them because their heart was different. I feel
Yeah,
like for each one
different.
of them.
Yeah. Funny
Hmm.
you said Dr. King, because in my,
Yeah.
which I always hold up, I might as well. There's a tortoise
Yeah.
here. One of this character, one of his heroes was Dr. King,
Mm.
and what actually helped teach him about life was having had the opportunity, the character, and actually me in real life was I lived 6 blocks away from a place where Dr. King was speaking. I was only
Wow.
17. What did I know from Dr. King back in those days?
Yeah.
He was just
Yeah.
starting out. So I had that wonderful opportunity. I could have sat in the front row and been 2 feet away from Dr. King
Mm.
in February 1963 before he gave the speech on the March on Washington. I had that
Wow.
opportunity and I blew it.
Mm.
And that, looking back on it, when I realized what I
Right.
blew, it
Yeah.
set the stage for a big part of my life, that you're going to take opportunities, seize
Yeah.
them, and don't let them
Yeah.
slip through your hands, because it's a one-shot deal. So
Yeah.
it's funny you said Dr. King, because he's kind of a hero of mine. Um, so this next question, I don't even know if there's I could never answer it. What is your favorite part of the publishing journey? Woof. Is there a
For
favorite part? I don't know.
self-publishing, I think the coolest part is sending the books off to people. This time around, I did things a little bit differently. I didn't just get the book, but I got like a little box to put things in, and I made some stickers. And then I found like this little stamp that you can stamp on the pages. That's my name. So it says from the Library of Dr. Danisha Keating on it, and it's like this little paper stamp. And being able to package those and send those off was very fulfilling because it was like, this is made for them. Even if that was the only book that I sent out, it was one of those situations that I got to sit back and like with each one that I was signing and stamping, I was like, this is going to a real person, not just going to sit in my shelf. So it's been that I think was the best part. Like it's always fun to write. It's always fun to figure out self-publishing in a different way, but to get to send the book out and see that, you know, I was able to send 100 books out, that was a big deal for me because that I didn't sell my very first book. I only ever sold 17 copies, which is great for a self-published book, but to then turn around a couple years later for my second one and sell 3,500, and then
Wow.
this one to sell in the like a pre-order situation, just to see if anybody would buy it. I was able to sell 100 and then ship those out to
Great.
people who were on the early end. I sat back and was like, this is really, this is a very sweet moment because before when I sold the first one, it was all to family and friends. The second one was to all strangers.
Wow.
And then the third one was to both family, friends, and strangers. And so it
Wow.
kind of I sat back differently with that and was like, people like they like me. They'll buy my stuff. But it was something very sweet to be able to do something different and package it up and to ship it out in a surprise way because they didn't know I was going to ship it in a
Wow.
box. They thought it was just the book.
Right.
So when they got this, they were like, oh, this is so
Wow.
cute and so different and so like organized and like who did you
Brilliant.
use? I was like, we did it at home.
Brilliant.
My toddler who was 2 at the time helped us. She was putting stickers on all the boxes. So it was really cute.
Brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just hyperstate super marketing, and
Yeah.
it's the
It was
vision.
different. It
Yeah,
was different.
yeah, that's great. That's another topic for another day on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I have I am trying to digest all that as a self-published author.
Yeah. It's a lot
Uh,
of work,
well,
but
yeah,
it's good.
it's a lot of work. Well,
It
um,
is.
last in this section, and we're going to do a brief section. What do you say to somebody who's so unsure and they kind of doubt if their story really matters, makes a difference?
You will never know until you get it out there. Because there's always like we are all when we love a book or an author or an actor or an actress, it's because they we see our story in them or we see us in their ability to deliver that story. I'm a person who was like, I needed a book like what I sent out. I needed to know that someone who was in foster care got to make it out because everyone around me at that time was like, you're not going to make it. Don't even try. Why are you wasting your energy? You should just quit. I needed to know that there were people out there like me who went from bottom of the barrel, not having any options for themselves to be successful. And I always gravitated toward those like bootstrap kids who were in the movies and like okay, they're losing and then all of a sudden they're winning now. That is what I gravitated towards. So I'm like, someone needs this, even if it's just one person that reads it and says, wow, this changed me. It's worth it. Even if it's something that you're like, well, I would have loved to sell 100. I always have to remind myself, like, even if it's one person who reads it and says, wow, this changed things for me, that's worth publishing it for. And then it could go away forever. But I would love for more people to read it. I would love for more people to have access to it because there's some validation of that hard work there. But if we really look at it, it's like my story, it might not be finished. It might still be messy. It might still be what I feel like it's gross or I'm not there yet. People want to be a part of that journey. So let's let them in that unique way of being able to write.
Okay. Uh, Everything's
It is.
the journey,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good segue. Um, it's a very good segue. This next little section is so important that we're just going to touch on a few things. And
Yeah.
Dr. Danisha Keating is going to come back because we're going to talk about the the book and more importantly, well, the realities of from forced to
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah.
Um, and your sister drew that picture.
Yes, she did both photos for the
Yeah,
books for both of them.
which is a wow.
Yeah,
And
she's
that's
a
a
really
wow.
good artist.
So, I'm preparing for this, and I said this, I think, before we went on air, and even maybe when we went on air, your journey really began, when you were a little kid.
Yeah.
You were homeschooled. If you could, this is just a teaser to everybody watching it.
Homeschooled too. Don't come at me. I was homeschooled. I watch TV all the day.
Yeah, you were homeschooled, and we can talk
Jerry
about
Springer,
that.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah,
Oprah. That was a
yeah,
big one for me
yeah,
too.
sure. So, I can't even fathom that because
Yeah.
you have a PhD, and but you went through, and again, this is a teaser.
Yeah.
You're gonna come back, and we're gonna really delve into this and your journey, which should be a movie.
Yeah.
But you were homeschooled for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Talk about that, and then you drifted
Yeah.
into foster care.
So I was homeschooled from preschool all the way to my freshman year of high school. I was put in the school year in March of my freshman year when the school year ended in June. So I only had about 3.5 years to catch up on being behind. I was 20 units behind, which was basically a semester and a half from where I was supposed to be for my state's regulation to graduate high school. And at that time, my high school counselor was just like, I'm not wasting my time on you because you're already behind. You're just going to end up at the continuation school. You're going to drop out. You're going to get pregnant. No, there's no point in helping you. And for 3.5 years, he actively would like change my schedule, block me, tell me to drop a class that I needed to graduate. And like he just made a mess of things. And so I had made the decision at that point that I needed to change the direction that I was going in because one day at like, I remember being like maybe 13, 14, I knew that I would have to take my siblings in at some point because they were a lot younger than I was. But in the middle of trying to get done with high school, I was put into foster care 3 days before my 16th birthday. And I was kind of like, cool, that kind of messes up the plan because they decided they wanted to move me to a different high school because it was closer to where I was going to be put into foster care. But then there was a lot of back and forth of where I was going to stay. And then they put me with my older sister. But then when I turned 18, CPS came to school and said, like, you got to get out. You can't stay here. But they never told my sister this conversation. They just said it to me. They never told her that I was leaving. But then 18 to 24, I was homeless and I moved around probably about 33 different times. And I lived in my car for a year all while going to college. And then at 24 years old, got an apartment and then took in five of my siblings that were from the ages of 12 to 18, 12 to 19 at that point, and then was raising them while I was in my bachelor's program. That took me 8 years to get there, to get through that, which was a long time. Did my master's in a year and then did my PhD program in 3.5 years.
Wow, and that's
It's
enough of
it's
it.
a lot.
That's all. It's beyond. It's beyond. I never. I don't know if I'm asking the wrong question, but any involvement with your parents these days?
No, it's not, sometimes people can reunify and it be a good thing. However, when someone is actively excusing behavior and saying like people can do whatever they want to you, and I'm gonna put you in situations that are like that, it's just not safe to be around. So I made the
Um,
decision a long time ago that that wasn't for me.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna stop
Yeah.
because this. I got like 8, 9 pages of your life story here that I've highlighted, and the yellow marker, the red pen.
Yeah.
And you're,
And we'll dig into that.
we're gonna dig into that when we come back. Uh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Danisha.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. By the way, where are you located?
I'm in California, Southern
I
California.
just wanted,
Yeah.
like, so, okay, I just wanted to know
It's a
that.
big place.
Big place, big place. Thank you, thank you, thank you
Thank you.
for this, your time, your graciousness, your knowledge, and thank you
Yeah.
for a night's loss of sleep tonight.
You're
Um,
welcome. Come back,
thank
ask
you.
questions too. I
Uh,
know sometimes I'm a processor, so sometimes things take
yeah,
time for
w-
me.
w-
So ask questions. I'm always here to answer
yeah,
them.
and we'll talk about that too, because I got a million questions, but we'll talk about that. So I'm going to stop recording. Thank you. You're coming back. I think that's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unfinished business here.
Yep.
You did make my day. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you for having me.